This is loading. There we go. We are live. Welcome back to another episode on the See Through It podcast, episode number 14. It's a late one. We are talking Notre Dame, Georgia game. I have a special guest with me, Mr. Lou. Mr. Lewis, how you doing tonight?
What's good?
You
I'm good.
ready?
I'm good.
You good?
Yes, sir.
All
Did
right.
you give them a little background of how we even
Yeah,
began to interact?
I can go ahead and give him that. So it was on Twitter. No, I think the first no. Let me get it
Twitter.
right. Was it Twitter? I was on Twitter, right? I follow you on Twitter,
Yep.
and I don't even
We
know
were
how I
going back
found.
and forth.
Just going back and forth. Alabama, Notre Dame, and Pope was involved in that too because I was following him.
Yep.
And then
hmm
I think I
I
see
think we were
where
arguing over whether Iowa was a legitimate team or not.
I what was the game? Was it the Ohio State game that they?
It was the year Iowa was running the table in the Big Ten, but we all knew they were pretenders.
Oh yeah. Okay. And then what? A year later or so, I saw you at GameStop. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
We was picking up
Ran into you there.
the show, MLB the
MLB the
show.
show.
MLB the
Great
show.
game.
Great game. Did you are you playing the newest one?
Yeah. I mean, that's the only game I play. The only game I make time for nowadays.
Yeah, I love the show, that baseball game. If you guys have the PS4 and the show is the best baseball game. I mean, it's the only one, but that game is,
Yes.
is very, very nice. You can carry on from multiple years from I started all the way back in 11. No, when they was able to do it on the PS4. Whatever the PS4 version of the MLB the show, you can start. Let's say it was 12. You can carry from 12 to 13 to 14 to 15. I'm all the way up, so I've got like 7 years compacted from carrying a franchise on. So I like
I'm
that
a
feature.
Diamond Dynasty guy. I like collecting
Diamond.
players. It's kind of like Madden Ultimate Team, but I think they just do a better job of the content they put out with that than Madden does, and then 2K does, and even FIFA. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, my favorite EA game is FIFA, but I never really got into like the fantasy where you collect the players, build your team. I never really got into that. I've always been build a franchise and trade and all that nonsense. I like that part of it. I've always been a
yeah,
fan of
yeah.
that. But
Well, today we're going to be talking about two teams that have built their own little dynasty, huh?
you well, Georgia's trying to get there. I mean, Notre Dame has been there for the ages of the old era of college football, the dynasty, the four horsemen. Georgia doesn't have that type of history yet. I mean, they have some history, but they don't
hmm
have the dynasty history. They're trying to get there.
Georgia is on that second tier right now. In the first tier, I only have Clemson and Alabama, but Georgia's knocking on that door. If they can ever beat Alabama, and then we'll see. They'll probably jump up to that first tier, but right now Notre Dame is clinging on, trying to stay on that second tier.
They are clinging on, but I feel like this year, before the season started, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yes, yes.
Because we're gonna talk about we're gonna start before we're gonna talk about the Louisville game, and then we're gonna talk into the New
Okay.
Mexico, and then jump into the Georgia game, and break down what we see. Because, like I said, I had some high hopes for Ian Book. I thought if Notre Dame was gonna
We
do
talked
well,
about that before the season.
if Notre Dame was gonna do well, it was gonna be on the arm of Ian Book. Uh, I know you
hmm
said you wasn't really riding that wave. Who, what were you seeing?
Uh, I knew going into the season one of the main issues Ian Book would have to address was he struggled throwing the deep ball. Last year he was amazing at reading and trusting his eyes and making those quick decisions, getting the ball out of his hand. But what's really kept them from being the offensive juggernaut they could have been last year was he wasn't able to stretch the field at all. So teams were able to. You saw at the end of the season last year, USC kind of stacked the box. They had 7, 8 guys like in his face pressuring him, and he had to get rid of the ball quickly. But they were jamming the receivers on the line. So Notre Dame had to game plan around the aggressiveness of USC because they knew that Ian Book was trying to get the ball out of his hands as quickly as possible.
Yeah, yeah, and I thought I saw that last year too. I wanted this offseason. I wanted him to be focused on moving the ball like down the field, like because Claypool is there. I thought that was gonna be the reason
Yes, definitely.
he was gonna be able to stretch the field deep, and I haven't seen it yet. I mean, I think I maybe saw two plays
I
in the New
mean,
Mexico game. I'm not sure.
you look at the tape and everything back when we were in the Clemson game. You had one play that could have changed the dynamic of the game early on. He had Miles Boykin streaking down the field, and he settled for a pass underneath and completely missed him because that's not the strength of his game. But all offseason we heard about how he's improving and how his deep balls improved and everything. And I'm just kind of waiting to see that be fully unleashed. But he had a few nice targets in the Louisville game. We'll get to that in a minute. But I mean, not the Louisville game, but the New
New
Mexico
Mexico.
game. We'll get to that in a minute. But uh, you had mentioned the Louisville game. That was a game we were really looking forward to seeing
Yeah,
what Ian Book can do on with the offense. We have a lot of weapons this year, but they were unproven weapons.
yeah.
So one of the things that you have commented about and kind of picked at Notre Dame about was the lack of speed with the skill position players.
Mm-hmm.
So we had Braden Lindsay, who's a track star, who quit track to focus on football this past year, even though track is considered like widely considered as his best sport.
Mm,
You
okay.
have Lawrence Keys, who's a quick, shifty guy that they moved inside when Michael Young got hurt and put Chris Fink on the outside. So we have a lot of those players we're really excited to see. But that first game against Louisville
Yeah,
wasn't the coming out party that we were hoping for.
yeah. I thought that game was gonna be
Ian Book
his.
seemed to be
I was
yeah,
just
Ian Book seemed to be just kind of very impatient in the pocket, quick to
very.
take off and scramble, and wasn't going through his progressions at all. And if he didn't see anything, he tucked the ball and ran. I mean, there was a couple plays where he made really nice plays on the run, really nice improvisation, but uh, would have liked to see a little more
Him
patience in
standing.
the pocket, a little more trust in his offensive line.
Absolutely. Like I thought that game. I thought he was gonna come out and put his stamp on it and be like, "I am here. Notre Dame is here.
Mhm,
I'm taking the Heisman, and we're going into the playoffs." Because I felt like that's the only way Notre Dame was going to finish the season. Like it was going to be on in book. So
mhm,
I already didn't really trust the run game, and like
yeah.
we'll talk about that in New Mexico. I didn't. They had some breaks, like the big games, like 14 or 20-yard runs, but after that, it was like I believe I recorded it was like 3 yards a carry after that. Like the running back could get a big gain, and
It
then it wasn't. They couldn't move the ball, and that was like whoa.
A lot of that is attributed to that you go into the season expecting Jafar Armstrong to be your
Mm-hmm.
horse.
Right.
Then he gets hurt in the first series of the first game. And that's why I kind of take a little bit of the blame off the offense for the first game and was kind of waiting to see what they did with a little extra time in between the Louisville game and the New Mexico game because your offensive game plan completely shifts first drive of the first game.
Yeah,
And then
I can see that.
we're left figuring out what's our offensive identity now.
Makes
So,
sense. Makes sense. Well, we'll give him a pass for that. He's like I didn't really believe in Armstrong to really be the like I said the the star for the team. Anyway, I was point if I had a bunch of chips if I was at the casino I was gonna put everything on in book. Let it ride everything on in book because I just expected Kelly. They was gonna be coaching him up. They was gonna get him ready, and I felt like me and Kelly was thinking the same thing. In book Arm is gonna have to put in some work the whole season, and I that's what I thought. But I mean that Louisville game they didn't show that much because he was ready like to as soon as he hiked the ball he was ready to go. He had happy feet. He had to go, and um, it definitely showed because they
I
couldn't.
want to say they even talked about that post game. He said that like he was just trying too hard to force it and make plays.
Yeah, so leading into that New Mexico game, I was like, I need to see Notre Dame focus. I need to see them with a very good game plan, and they come out aggressive and they put it to New Mexico. In the first quarter, I guess you can give them
Yeah.
a pass for the first quarter because not much really happened, and then all the turnovers, and then it woke up. Though the defense was ready to play. Um, the offense, I felt like they was lagging behind a little bit, but then they finally woke up and they put up the 66, which was good to see. I, that was a good confidence booster for Inbook and that offense. I don't know why they struggled early in the first quarter, or was that me just thinking they were struggling? How did you see that first quarter play out?
The first quarter, and I'll put this caveat out there. I had to watch the game on replay. I had a few events going on that day,
Mm-hmm.
so I really got a chance to like kind of sit down and focus through the game, comfortable with everything. Because I imagine if I had watched that first quarter live, you would have been seeing a lot from me on Twitter. But it 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 just seemed a lot like the offensive line struggled with some of the different looks that they were getting uh, from New Mexico, and it's not something that we haven't seen before with this offensive line. Even in years past, under Jeff Quinn, it just seems like teams that are throwing different little looks at the offensive line, shifting and slanting and doing all these things instead of kind of playing a straight up base defense. The offensive line has kind of struggled with that, which is why they struggled a little bit with Ball State last year, and why they struggled with Virginia Tech initially on the along the offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be something to watch going forward. Just seeing how they react to a team like Georgia, who wants to cause as much chaos as possible. Kind of pre-snap, they do a lot of shifting right
Mm-hmm.
before the snap and
Yeah.
everything like that. So it'd be interesting to see how they face a team that does have the powerful base defense and then also does some of the shifting. So the run game struggled to kind of get going. Uh, and I'm seeing a lot more on the interior offensive line, them just kind of getting beat by those shifts and slants that the opposing defenses are throwing at them. Um, and that's going to be an issue going forward because that powerful defensive line that Georgia has will will have a party in the backfield
Yeah.
if they don't address that.
Absolutely. So do you even think they should even game plan for running the ball? Or should it just be like
I mean,
quick screen passes because I personally I don't want to see them run the ball. I think it's gonna that plays into what they want. They want. I feel like Georgia wants them to try to run the ball so they can push them further back. But do you want to have Inbook
uh,
sitting back there passing the ball 3 times in a row?
well, I certainly hope not. I'm trusting that the offensive line will create some push. The those issues will be addressed in some manner going into this weekend. And one of the things that Notre Dame did to kind of counter the poor play of their interior line was they did a lot of those jet sweeps
Mm-hmm.
and the little shovel passes. You saw Avery Davis break a long touchdown. It's a run play. I don't
Right.
care. He tossed the ball forward, so it's technically a pass, but it's a run play.
Right.
It's an extension of the run offense. You seen that, and you saw Chris Fink take one of those to the house, and you saw on a jet sweep. I want to say Lawrence Keys picked up 7 yards on one of those that was poorly blocked,
Mm-hmm.
and Braden Lindsey picked up 14 yards on one of those as well. So you see they're putting in little different wrinkles to get the ball in the playmakers' hands on the outside in some high percentage plays, but it will need more than just those little wrinkles to keep Georgia honest.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. What else was alarming that you saw in that New Mexico game since you was able to actually sit down? Because I noticed I was like, Lou ain't said nothing. I was looking through my timeline. I was like, he ain't said no, he ain't said nothing.
Yeah,
But then they
yeah, I
took it
had a little
off.
bit of everything that day.
So what else did you see in that game against New Mexico?
One of the things I was looking for, because after watching the Louisville game on defense, I was wondering what kind of adjustments they would make going into the New Mexico game. Louisville was able to kind of gash Notre Dame's offense with kind of like that speed option. They were really getting the ball in the hands of their playmakers outside with a lot of the RPOs and everything like that. And New Mexico is a team who, in that Western Athletic Conference, will be able to put up some points. Notre Dame holding them to 14 points is while they're still just New Mexico, that's a pretty big deal
Mm-hmm.
still. Uh, so I was interested to see how New Mexico tried to attack, if they would try to get the ball in playmakers' hands on the outside. Would Notre Dame's linebackers react better than they did against Louisville? And you saw early in the game, Asmar Bilal, a guy who athletically would be able to line up for 99% of the teams in the country, but his reaction and how he does handles his day to day work is kind of been like his hindrance. He was able to read and react and fly aggressively to the ball. You saw him early on in the first few series just kind of blow up a few plays.
Mm-hmm.
You saw the linebackers just uh, kind of having a little fun, playing fast, playing aggressive,
Yeah.
and making good reads. So I was really kind of excited by that, but at the same time, going into the Georgia game, they're going to still have to continue to progress and play better to be able to stop that potent run offense.
Yeah.
But as you look at the numbers and everything, you see Notre Dame kind of struggle stopping the run. The average was kind of high.
Yeah.
Uh, can't remember the exact number, but when you really, really look at it, if you take out two big run plays, those two touchdown runs, Notre Dame held them to under 3 yards a rush. So,
Okay.
I mean, but if you make enough exceptions, your whole stat sheet is an exception. So,
That is right. How do you feel about the guy named Hamilton, the freshman, the safety? I feel like he's a gambler. I feel like he's an opportunist. Uh, he's very rangy, and I think he plays to that. That he has that ability to recover. I saw in that game against New Mexico, and even against Louisville, he was taking some chances. Like I was
yeah,
keying in on him. He takes some chances. Will he be able to take those same chances against Georgia? Like he's building a tendency right
uh,
now to keep taking chances. Will he? I wonder all the coaches keying in on that because he's a gambler. He's ranked. He's 6'4". He's fast.
mhm.
He knows that he can. He has a little leeway that he can. I'm gonna let and then react. So can he do that against more elite players than what he was able to do against New Mexico and Louisville?
Hamilton's a guy I was super excited about coming in. Obviously, a
Mm-hmm.
freshman, started off as a 3-star recruit. But then, as you look at his tape, I listened to a lot of Brian Driscoll with Blue Gold Illustrated, and he was just talking about how this kid is like he's not a 3-star player; he's a 5-star player.
Mm-hmm.
Then eventually started getting the love that he deserved, and he came in as the highest rated recruit coming into the year for Notre Dame, and he was the fall camp kind of turning a lot of heads. There was a practice where he had 3 interceptions, but one of the things that didn't get highlighted, as you pointed out, was there was a lot of those times where he would gamble and make a mistake,
Yeah.
or he would make a wrong read,
Mm-hmm.
and that a big play would happen. But everyone wants to talk about the 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
So but the key is he each week, each practice, you saw him not making the same mistakes. That shows a sign of a player who's going to be something good in the future. Someone who you don't have to keep telling them the same thing over and over and over. He made the mistake one time, then the next time he would blow the play up because he
Mm-hmm.
would be in the correct position.
Right.
And you see this kid, obviously in the Louisville game and the New Mexico game, he's always around the ball.
Yeah, he
He's
is.
always in position to make a play.
It's a ball hawk.
And I always have this fear with freshmen. He doesn't seem to be a typical freshman, but I always have a fear with freshmen that in a big game they'll make that one mistake that causes the levees to break.
Yeah.
That's just my typical fear with freshmen.
Yeah, and no, I definitely get that because, like I said, I've noticed that he is a big time gambler. Uh, he knows that he has the skill and the range to recover, but I don't know if he has the not. I don't want to say he doesn't have the skill, but he'll be taking a big gamble to be out of position against Georgia, or taking a chance on a play when he should be where he need to be at. I wonder, does he know that in his head, like in the back of his mind, that this is Louisville, this is New Mexico, I can see where I'm at, and then Georgia, I hone it in and I take care of business. That's the
I
only
mean, he
thing
has
I.
some veteran leaders in front of him, and a great safeties coach that had kind of turned the position around. Like a couple years ago, the safeties position was in turmoil at Notre Dame. They made an amazing hire, and last year, I think it was 2 years ago that the safeties didn't have an interception
Mm,
like the entire season.
wow.
And last year they made a huge jump at two All American style players with Jalen Elliott and Aloy Gilman. And now you add Kyle Hamilton to the mix, and you got these two players who Pro Football Focus rate is really high on.
Mm,
But then you see Kyle Hamilton's forced his way onto the field.
yeah,
So
as a
I
freshman.
I think that we will see he his name will be called this Saturday at some point,
At some
whether
point.
it's a big play or
A
a
busted.
disastrous one, depending on who you're rooting for.
I'm hoping it's not a busted play. I'm hoping because I like to see him fly. He likes to. He's a ball hawk. Anytime that ball is past the line of scrimmage or is height, he is somewhere near it. He's going to be somewhere near it. I like Hamilton.
He's going to be an amazing player.
I like him a lot. Is there anything else we need to cover on that New Mexico game? Is there anything else that was like
Uh,
alarming to you in that game? I mean, it can't be that alarming.
one
I
of the
think he
things
won
I just
66.
really like.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I really liked seeing a lot of the young guys get a chance to get some spin.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very important. Last year, you see those games early in the season, the Ball State game, the Vanderbilt game, those games. Uh, wore the tread on the tires of some of the players late in the season. You would like those games at the beginning of the year to be games where you stick to the opponent early, and then you're able to get some young guys some reps, especially with the new red shirt rule where they could play in four
Yep, four
games in a
games.
season.
Yeah.
You want those guys reps, get your starters off the field so they're not worn out. And when you're playing Vanderbilt down to the wire, when you're playing Boston, not Boston College, but Ball State down to the wire, it's tough on those players at the end of the year, and you see the effect of that.
Yeah.
So I was really enjoying getting a chance to see some of those playmakers, like I talked about, seeing guys make plays outside of Chase Claypool. We all know Chase Claypool is a stud. We all know he's 5 catches, 100 yards, waiting to happen. Uh, we all know Ian Book can sling it around a little bit, but seeing uh, Javon McKinley come in, a guy who was highly rated out of high school, had trouble putting together consistent practices, and had some injury bad luck. Seeing him come in there and have 2 touchdowns on a back shoulder fade where he makes an amazing catch, and an amazing catch and run on a crossing pattern. And seeing guys like Lawrence Keys return a kick 40 something yards,
Yeah.
and make a few plays and get out in space, and then seeing Braden Lindsey, a guy who has track speed, like I talked about, probably the second fastest player on the team next to Troy Pride. He who Troy Pride's an all ACC sprinter. But seeing Braden Lindsey get deep on that post route and catch the ball from Phil Dracovic, uh, I think that might play into the game plan for next week. And we saw a little of the the skill that they had, and they're building some trust and building some confidence in those younger guys and some of those guys that aren't the everyday household names, to allow them to get ready for Georgia.
Yeah. Well, as we're moving on, we're the game that everyone is talking about. ESPN has already claimed that Georgia has already beaten Notre Dame by 70 points. Coach
You got that
Kelly,
right.
Coach Kelly is on his way out. There is no hope for Notre Dame, and Georgia has this one already won. If games were played on paper,
Put Notre Dame in rice.
it would be over. But these games are not played on paper, and um, don't listen
That's
to
right.
what ESPN and Fox and whoever else. Um, you
See
have your
through it.
you see. That's the name of the podcast. People see through it. You have eyeballs. Look at the games, and yes, Georgia is good. Yes, they have 5-star players, but people 5-star players that don't mean anything. The person has to get on the field and produce. There's Josh Jacobs
Yes.
was a 3-star player for Alabama and played better than Damian Harris and Najee Harris, um, and those were five
Hmm.
star players. The stars mean nothing. It's work ethic. What's the drive? What drives that person on the field? These stars mean nothing, people. Get over the stars. But anyway, I hate recruiting
They
season
don't
because
hurt.
these people get all crazy about these stars. We got the number one. I don't. That means nothing to me. Is he going to see the field? Is he going to be on the field? But anyway, Georgia has some question marks, and no one's talking about the question marks that Georgia has. They've played no one. The beginning of the season, they haven't played anyone. Um, the question marks when the season ended, it was going to be losing some people in the back end, the DBs. We don't know who. I mean, we seen the highlights. Georgia scoring points, yes, but again, that was against no one. How the receivers going to react on the field when they playing against the DBs of Notre Dame? Um, so there is some question marks. I don't want to say there's tons of concerns, but there's some things that we have to see on the Georgia side to be like, okay, I can see why that's justified. We cannot just look at, well,
Hmm.
Georgia's been in the playoffs, so they've been close, they've been competing with Alabama, and well, they're playing Notre Dame, and the game is over. No, we have to see, we have to look at everything, check the boxes. So in this game, we got Georgia going against Notre Dame. This game will not be played on paper. It will be played in a field, and both teams got to compete. And like I said,
Yeah.
the question marks for Georgia that I have is the DBs. Can they stop the pass? I mean, they going to. This is the first game of the season where they're going to play some real competition. Despite what everyone is saying, this is the first game they're going to play some real competition. And if you think Kelly is going to come to Georgia without a game plan to not compete, then I don't know. I don't even know what to say to you. That's ridiculous. What do you have any question marks for that? The well, let's stick
I
to.
think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, uh, I'm not gonna crown the opposing team if I haven't seen anything worthwhile of note to write down. Like uh, you like to think those tune-up games with Murray State and was it Arkansas State?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first off, classy move by the Georgia faithful. The
Yep,
Arkansas State coach had his wife had lost her battle with cancer, I think it was,
I believe that's what it was.
and
Yep,
the crowd wore pink
the War Pink.
in
Yep.
support of her. That was just a classy move by them. But I'm just excited to kind of see because, as you mentioned, there's some question marks with Georgia. They've been trying to reach this tier of Alabama and Clemson, and they've been knocking on the door for so long. Uh, and last year, after they felt they got snubbed from the college football playoffs and felt Notre Dame didn't deserve, a lot of their players were talking a lot of junk,
Yeah.
and now it's time to back it up. And they were saying Notre Dame didn't deserve to be there, and that if a lot of SEC fans feel the same way and feel that the SEC needs three berths in the college football playoffs,
I
but
don't. I don't
but
know. I don't know about three,
there's
but
three SEC teams in Clemson and an angry Brandon Pope.
yeah, that would definitely make Mr. Pope, Big Pope, angry about that. 3 teams, 4 teams actually in the South. That would, man, that's a
Yeah,
crazy. That's a quarter of the population. If you quarter it off, that's a quarter of the population just in the playoff. That's crazy. But yeah, I don't want to see 3 SEC teams and
and
Clemson. That I want more variety than that. I
The
want more.
Georgia players last year were very upset and everything, and some felt justified, like I said, but at the same time, they had the opportunity to back it up in
Yeah,
their bowl game against Texas,
absolutely,
and
absolutely.
they got beat down. I mean, it the Texas team was hot at the end of the year, but at the same time, if you're going to talk a lot, you got to back it up on the field.
You got to back it up on the
Like
field.
I'm fine with trash talk. I bulletin board material that doesn't phase me. That like talk trash, but back it up on the field.
Hmm. And they didn't do that. They came into that game, and they allowed Texas to come back and win that game. With all that defensive talk,
Hmm.
they allowed Texas to come back and win that game. So uh,
Yeah,
I need to see improvement. I need to see improvement. Like when I was putting out my top five, I didn't want to put Alabama at number two. I felt like they should have been 3 or 4 because the way they got beat by Clemson and everyone else won their games. They got smashed and they needed to show improvement and show that they belong in the top two. Got a little kickback from that, but
I'm just gonna say it. That Clemson team was they were hot and they were good. Like there's
yeah,
not much either Notre Dame nor Alabama could have done in those games. Like
they were hot.
I don't think those are indications of the quality of teams that Notre Dame and Alabama both had. I think they both had some solid teams. That Clemson team was just on fire at that moment.
I can believe that because we look at the season now for Clemson, they're not the same team. Like they they're still solid on defense, but offensively they're not doing. If you look at that game, the Alabama game, and then you compare it to what Trevor Lawrence is now, that's not the same guy. And I think that's because the
You know,
tape is.
he's thrown more interceptions
Yep,
this year than he did all of last year.
exactly. So maybe there's a little regression on his part, or the tape is out on him, and teams can really put a game plan, and players are really playing the game plan. So uh, it's a different situation now.
I
But
would like to think I would still like for the Steelers to tank and draft Trevor Lawrence in a couple years. So I'm like
just
all
throw
that
that
stuff
out
I was
there.
just talking like that doesn't excuse. I still think he's an amazing ball player.
That's a hot take. Steelers need to tank. Was it next season? That
Yes,
would be next season.
tank next season for Trevor Lawrence. Tank for Trevor or lose
Tank
for Lawrence, whatever.
lose for Lawrence. But yeah, like I said, I had high expectations for M Book, and this is the game. If he wants to wake up the
Hmm.
echoes, he this is the game to wake those echoes up. Like I test those. I don't want to say that he needs to throw the ball 50 times, but he just needs to. If the defense is giving something, take it. But he got to stretch the field because Georgia will give him that.
Yeah.
They'll do a lot of bending. That I feel like they'll do a lot of bending, but they're not gonna break. So you're gonna have to make them break with Claypool and Trey and your track start. You're gonna have to make them break. So that's I think that's my keys for him to win. He's gonna have to stretch them out a little bit. Take what they're giving them early, but when that window open, you use Clay. You got to use Clay. What you think?
I like what you had said about feeling like Notre Dame, Brian Kelly always has his team prepared for these types of matchups. And we've seen it over the years in these top 10 type matchups. We're going to excuse the Miami game from a couple years ago because I still think that's a fluke. And Miami was not better than that Notre Dame team.
Yeah,
And
no.
I'm just going to talk about something else because I know some people might murder me for that take. But you see that
Murder.
Florida State game when with Jameis Winston, that matchup down in Tallahassee. Notre Dame really won that game, pick play, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
still
that goes
bitter.
back and forth. Yeah, pick play.
Yeah, so I mean, you see Notre Dame well prepared for that game in that environment. You see when they went down to Clemson a few years back, primetime game in monsoon.
Yeah,
Uh,
monsoon.
Notre Dame was within a 2 point conversion of tying the game. They had scored a touchdown, just needed a 2 point conversion, couldn't convert. So you've seen Notre Dame come down double digit underdog in 2012 against Oklahoma at Oklahoma and come out and pull away
Yeah,
late in that game.
yeah, I remember that.
So you've seen Brian Kelly take his teams into these environments where it's a hostile environment and get his team prepared to play. Unfortunately, that hasn't transferred over to big bowl games, 42 nothing Alabama and the Clemson game last year.
Yeah,
But you've seen him largely have his team prepared in those regular season matchups for those big games and show up. So I'm hoping this is another opportunity for them to finally break through.
it's gonna be a big breakthrough. I mean, like I said, the echoes are gonna have to wake up, and the power of the Golden Dome is gonna have to be with them. Um, I don't think it's
They're
gonna
going
be
to need a little bit of everything.
a little bit of everything. I don't think it's gonna be like a huge blowout. The score, I actually believe because I don't trust Georgia's defense. I haven't seen, like I said, they played nobody. So I'm going off the fact I haven't seen them play a real team, a good team, and so I'm gonna say this is gonna be a shootout. I believe is I'm looking at like 41-47, somewhere around there. It's gonna be like a last touchdown thing or something like that. I'm thinking there's gonna be tons of yards in this game. That's what I'm thinking. I don't see Georgia. I don't know what their DBs look like yet. I know that with the defensive line because that's Georgia. They're gonna have a defensive line. They're gonna have some linebackers. But if Inbook comes in that game confident, ready, focused, and the offense, if the offensive side of the ball is focused, I see a shootout in Georgia Saturday night.
That'd be I don't know if my heart can handle that, but I like the build up to this game. Like I was telling you beforehand, as of right now, myself, I'm a realist for 5 or 6 days out of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I think Georgia's got this one. I think Notre Dame just doesn't have enough to pull this off. And then by the end of the week, by Friday night, I will have convinced myself in my head Notre Dame's gonna beat Georgia and they're gonna dog walk them. But but as of right now, while I'm sensible, I'm still thinking that Georgia has this one.
He's sensible. That makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
it always fluctuates as new things are happening. You see something in the news or the weather changes. You're like, man, it's getting kind of cold. It might not. It's starting to rain now. I don't know if we should be throwing the ball. Uh,
hmm
it might not work. We have to change
I'm
the.
hoping that's not the case. I am praying that it's not the case that it's run the ball weather because Notre Dame hasn't proven that they can do that on a consistent basis yet.
Because I don't like that. If that's the game plan, if that's the weather, if matter of fact, that might. I mean, that could possibly turn into an ugly situation and a perfect storm for Notre Dame to trip up Georgia in a game like that, where the Georgia players are not ready to. I mean, that's going to be a battle between in the trenches. Who's going to be toughing it out? Who's going to be? I want this game. Which team? And I
I I heard and sorry,
no, go ahead.
I heard some comparison the other day,
Mm-hmm.
and the one of the main reasons why I'm a believer in Georgia on at least on the offensive side of the ball to take care of business to do whatever they have to do
Mm-hmm.
is Jake Fromm. Pete Sampson with the Athletic uh, compared his situation to those Stanford teams with Andrew Luck, where they're a smash mouth team. They can really pound the ball, but the difference between them being just a uh, good team and 10 wins or and being a team with that might run the table is their quarterback play. So Jake Fromm is just that guy who's able to take that offense to new heights. With their run game is always going to be there. We've always seen that run game there with even dating back to Mark Richt, but now having that quarterback to take them to that next level, that's the difference.
I can agree with that. He is a different type of quarterback. You need a superstar quarterback to do things, to make things happen in college football. And Jay Fromm can definitely be that. We'll definitely have to see how he handles things. For Notre Dame, they're gonna have to win the battle at the line. They're gonna have to protect
Yeah, absolutely.
Book, and Book is gonna have to trust that the line is gonna buy him at least 4 or 5 seconds so he can make his reads. They're going to be quick reads, but he's gonna have to make the right read and put the
Hmm.
ball on the
Absolutely.
money every time. Don't get taken out of the game. Don't get taken out of the game with costly turnovers, especially on your side of the field. Especially on your side of the field. Do,
Mm.
do you want to give a score
Take care of
prediction?
the ball.
Take care of the ball. Do you want to give a score prediction?
I can give a score prediction. See, I'm gonna give you my realistic now while I'm in my good mind
Uh huh.
score prediction, and I'm gonna give you what I'm gonna talk myself into on Friday
So we
night.
we got two scores. Okay.
So
Okay.
one of the things I'm gonna look for this week, like you said earlier, just being able to stretch the field. I look for Braden Lindsey, redshirted last year, freshman receiver. Um, I'm looking for them to test the field with him. You've seen in the 2012 game against Oklahoma, they what really kind of broke open the game was a deep pass they threw to Chris Brown late in the game
Mhm.
that kind of was that led to, like, I think it was a go ahead touchdown. I'm gonna look for them to do something the same, stretch the field with a player that Georgia may not have game planned for with Braden Lindsey at least once or twice. And but I'm still not looking for that to make a huge difference in this game. I'm thinking right now 33-17 Georgia.
33-17. Yeah, I can see
And
that.
then my Friday night, I'm
Friday
I'm
night.
I've watched hype up videos. I might have watched Rudy. I'm got my lucky Notre Dame draws on. Uh, I think at that point I will have talked myself into Notre Dame gutting out 34 to 34-30 win.
34-30 win off the Notre Dame draws on a Friday night watching Rudy. Is that
Yes.
is that what we're going with? Okay.
Drinking a Guinness.
Drinking again.
I'm trying to get all the Irish left, right?
Okay, so 34-30 on a Friday night, gaining all the Irish luck. That's the score he comes up with for Friday night. So right
I
now,
need you to write down that first prediction of the
that's
33-17 prediction.
33-17. 33-17, and that's
Yes.
tonight's prediction, right? Or is that tomorrow?
Yeah, that's my sensible
Sensible.
Lewis is in his right mind prediction.
Okay. Sensible prediction. And then Friday we got 34-30 prediction based off all the Irish that you've put on and
Yes.
into. Okay. Okay. Just making
But I
sure.
want you to remember both those because
Oh
I
yeah.
want both those. I'm on record for both of
Oh yeah.
those.
I'm about to pin
So
this.
either one, if either one's close,
I,
then that's what that was mine.
I am pinning this to my Twitter page. So guys, if you see on the screen my Twitter feed, see through it, one. I don't know why Twitter did me wrong, but they gave me a one at the end of my thing. But it's see through it one.
That just
Um,
means we got to find whoever see through it is, the
yeah,
regular
I
one.
have to try to find that person and see if he
We're
can
gonna have to
delete his
jump.
delete his account. But I'm posting his scores on my page on my Twitter account and give him a follow at LouBoy3. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this up 33-17 sensible prediction, and then we got Friday night or Friday. Yeah, so you guys,
I
if
ate
you
Lucky Charms that morning. I was watching Rudy, watched old Notre Dame highlights.
you said 34-30, right?
Yep. What
Prediction.
about you? What you got, man?
So what I got, I got what I say. I believe it's going to be a shootout. I believe it, and I don't have a reason to really fluctuate with my predictions, but uh, I I expect a good game. I do have I do have Georgia winning that game. Um, but even with a loss, I still think Ian Book can carry the team the rest of the season and throw his name. If I feel this game would do something crazy to his confidence, which will give the coaching staff more confidence to trust him, and maybe this would be an offensive year for Notre Dame. Like they just go out there and take their anger out on who they got. They got Virginia coming up. That's
That
gonna
Virginia game
that's
actually worries me a little
that is
bit.
a big game. So if he can build some confidence in this game, take out Virginia big because Virginia's gonna be ranked. They're gonna be ranked higher. They got Bowling Green after that.
Hmm.
They smashed them. Then they got USC, and USC is getting a lot of momentum. Even though they lost to BYU, they're building a lot of momentum because of the freshman quarterback and the not really high expectations because, but the talent that they have around and the system that they're running. They want to throw that ball. So they're trying to be like
They want
Hollywood.
to get the ball in the hands of their playmakers.
Exactly. So there's a excitement surrounding USC right now.
I have a thought about USC.
Go ahead.
I have a thought. I'm still not fully a believer in USC and Clay Helton.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. I think that Stanford game was more smoke and mirrors than anything. Stanford has gone out and kind of proven that they're not who we thought they were going to be preseason.
Very good point. They
That that
did. They laid an
that
egg.
UCF game last week, they just got beat down. In the USC
Absolutely.
game, it just seemed like they were a step slower as a team and not as physical and aggressive as we're used to seeing with these Stanford teams. And I think Stanford is on the decline.
Oh, Brian Shaw might be looking for a job. Oh,
He might be looking for he might get out before it gets. He
before it
might
gets too
jump out of a
crazy.
sinking ship.
Because I've said it on this show a couple of times that the Pac-12 uh they're falling apart. The
It's
Chip
chaos.
it is chaos. Chip Kelly and UCLA is not the same. He should have never left Oregon in the first place. You
Bingo.
yeah, he should never left Oregon in the first place. With Hawaii beating Arizona and Oregon State, I thought they was going to complete a sweep and beat Washington, but Washington made sure that was not going to happen. But the Pac-12 does not look very good, and I mean with the past attendance in the Pac-12 championship games, people.
I'm actually really excited that the Pac-12 games come on so late at night because I'm asleep and I don't need to watch that mess.
It is mess. It is mess. They keep crying that they're not in the playoffs. The people over there on that side of the country don't care about football. I believe it's not the same. The Pac-12, it's not good. It's not good. So, and I thought the only team that was gonna keep their hopes were Oregon, but they got beat by Auburn. They're not gonna make the playoffs. Washington lost to Cal. They're not gonna make the playoffs. Utah does not have anyone on their schedule for the rest of the season. They're gonna have to smash everyone by like 60 points. They're not gonna make the playoffs.
Hmm.
It's not a good thing for the Pac-12. The
Yeah, well, I
Pac-12
mean, we're going to see another year without the Pac-12s in the playoffs. This is
another
how it is.
year. But yeah, if and Book can come into this game, even though if he loses, I feel like it builds confidence, and it'll be an offensive showing for the rest of the year. Run Michigan if they can go in and ruin Michigan's year in the big house. In Book,
You were higher on Michigan. Well,
it,
you were with everyone else in being high on
I
Michigan.
was.
I think Michigan is garbage.
I thought Michigan was going to take the crown. I thought Michigan was going to take the crown. Jim Harbaugh was going to be like, "This is my conference now. Everyone else, bow down. I run this," and that is not the case. Michigan is going to get crushed.
I just think I have a hard time believing a team that wasn't as good as people thought last year then loses their best defensive players going into this year
Mm-hmm.
to the draft. I just have a hard time seeing them competing at the level that people were expecting. Like, and that offense is what is it?
Yeah, I
It's
definitely I agree.
bad.
I didn't think they was gonna go backwards. I mean, Urban Meyer's not there no more. Why is the progression backwards? Why are you regressing? You should be progressing. You got Shea Patterson. You should be developing him. You should have an offensive game plan. You should know what your team strengths are, and they do not know. They have no idea what they're doing on offense. They have no idea what they're doing on defense. It's a horrible
It
year for the
it
Michigan
might
Wolverines.
the tell for everyone should have been when Shea Patterson called out Jim Harbaugh on Twitter.
I didn't
That should
see
have
that.
been Yeah, he had said that I think he had meant to post with a burner account. He tried pulling the Kevin Durant, and he had talked about how Michigan would have won more games last year if Jim Harbaugh had trusted him to throw the ball around more and let him call plays. And I'm like,
Whoa.
there's trouble in paradise.
Whoa, that is news. I did not know that. Wow. Well, well, now we see what's going on in Michigan. So Notre Dame. I mean, there's a lot of games on that schedule they can win and finish the season out 11-1. I don't really see them getting tripped up by anyone else. Maybe that Virginia game, but other than that, I feel like Michigan should be a
It's
cakewalk. And
another typical Notre Dame season where everybody just their schedule doesn't hold up their end of the deal. Every year it seems like Notre Dame going to the season. Oh man, it's a murderer's row. I don't know if Notre Dame's going to be able to get through this schedule.
yeah,
Their schedule's so tough. And then once the season plays out, the teams that are on their schedule don't hold up their end of the deal
yeah,
and just fizzle out.
yep.
And then everybody at the end of the year, Notre Dame doesn't play anybody. Every year, I'm sick of it, man.
Well, I think
Fed up.
every school is starting to hear that. Well, maybe not every school, but a lot of schools are hearing that they don't play anybody. But I mean, you have to look at what the schedule is at that point in time, and I mean, if you got a couple nonsense games on that schedule, it's kind of hard to be like when Alabama's schedule came out and they had Duke on there. I seen that the 2 years before. I was like, that schedule is garbage. And then when they had the year before they had Louisville and Lamar Jackson was gone. When I knew he was leaving, I was like, that schedule is garbage. It's hard when teams are up and down. It's hard,
It's
but
hard for an athletic director.
it is definitely hard. But you should definitely not be scheduling Citadel or who's Alabama had on there before, Georgia Southern. Like you,
Well, the
uh,
whole SEC takes that 1 week where they play
yeah, it's
FCS schools just as a break from their tough schedule. But I told you beforehand, your SEC fans are gonna hate me. I outside of the top few teams in the conference,
mm-hmm.
outside of Alabama, Georgia, LSU, I'm not a believer in anybody else in that conference so much better than other conferences.
No, this year is definitely
The
down.
top is so heavy in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
because
year.
there's years where people like the Kentucky would win the Big Ten. I'm like, you got to be
Who said
kidding
that?
me.
I said who
Oh,
said
I've
that?
seen that on Twitter. Paul
Oh my!
Feinbaum.
Oh my gosh! Kentucky will win the Big Ten. I don't know about that nonsense. I can't co-sign that type of nonsense. But this year, the SEC conference is down. There, with Tennessee and I don't care how Florida's ranked. Florida's not good.
Especially after losing their quarterback,
Yeah.
Felipe
So
Franks. I mean, it's a gruesome injury.
Mississippi State played a tough game against Kansas State, but Auburn. I mean, Auburn's not good. Texas A&M is in the middle of the road. Missouri is just going to score points. They don't play defense. South Carolina's not going to be good. So this is a down year. So if anyone is telling you that the SEC is tough this year, they're wrong. It's not. This is a down year. I mean, it is what it is. It is a down year in the SEC. A lot of teams that should be winning are not winning. Tennessee is a prime example. They're not winning. They're not winning. So, but anyway, man, this has been good. How long have we been gone? We've been gone for 50, almost an hour. Almost an hour.
Oh, wow.
How you feel?
I feel good,
You
man.
feel
Like,
good? I feel like it was a
yeah, I
good.
mean, you got any more questions for me?
Nah,
I'll tackle them.
I think we covered all. We did the predictions. We went through the Louisville, New Mexico. We came to the Georgia. We dabbled in some other stuff, but I feel good. This was a good episode. I seen on my Facebook timeline a lot of people was getting angry and so mad about how ESPN and Fox or majority ESPN was just already putting a nail in the coffin and saying the game was dead. Shouldn't even watch it. So I was happy that you reached out and you was ready to do an episode. Because I was thinking about doing one, but a lot of people already feel like I'm biased for some reason. But I keep telling people I'm a professional now. I'm not trying to do the bias thing. I'm trying to be in the middle of the road.
You got to see through
I
it.
got to see through it. I can't be biased if if I'm trying to see through it. It doesn't work. It's either you see through it and everything,
Nope.
and you call it like it is, or you bias. It's one or the other. It's one of the other people. It's one of the other. So
Yep.
anyway, Mr. Lewis, I appreciate you coming on to the show doing this thing, man.
Definitely, definitely. We had talked about this before, and I'm excited and blessed to be able to help you out.
All right.
Just giving the Notre Dame insight.
I like it. I like it.
Like I said, I'm not a journalist. I don't got time to be poring over film all day, but I'm a diehard fan who will pay attention to the small details
Yeah.
and not accept the stats as what they are.
Exactly. Everybody get caught up in these stats. I catch myself sometimes. Like I said before, any like I'm an Alabama fan, but before all of that, I love competition. So that means I love sports. Period. I love the competition, and I like isolating the defensive end going up against a tackle or really breaking down what's going on the offensive line when the offensive line is pulling for a counter play. I like seeing what the linebackers doing. I like to see all the pre-snap. Who's paying attention? Who is really focusing, or who is like, I don't know what we're doing, but okay, I'm gonna just play right here. Like I like seeing
Hmm.
all of that. Numbers, numbers like the blind people. See through that and see what's really happening on the field. So, uh, again, thank you for coming on to the show. If you have Twitter, people, the Twitter addresses are right there on the screen. On the screen, put those up. Also, if you are on the Twitter
If
right
you want
now,
to yell at me, if you want to yell at me about my takes and everything, see
oh,
me on Sunday morning at Relevant Church,
there it is. There it is. Yeah, where's that church at?
Niles, Michigan.
Now it's Michigan, folks.
You can find us on thisisrelevant.cc.
This is relevant.cc. Also, folks, if you are on Twitter, here's the Facebook address, facebook.com/STIPODCAST. Look that up. Give it a like, a follow. Join the conversation. Join the conversation. Community, sports. Just join the conversation. Tell me how you feel about these. This episode and previous episodes we are in season 2. So again, support the page, support the movement, the See Through It movement. Yeah, that's it. So again, Mr. Lewis, thank you for joining in on this show. And folks, don't get blinded by the media. Continue to see through it. I am your host, Brian Sells. I will talk to you guys later. Peace.